we finally got to see the fraud of Demetrius Andrade. We've had to listen to him spew nonsense for so many years. He took a whooping for 6 rounds, and then he finally decided to quit on his stool. We finally got rid of the fake fraud fighter of Demetrius.
David has qualities that Canelo doesn't like in an opponent. Not only doesn't stop coming forward, but also punches hard. But most importantly, it's the level of punch output. Canelo, who is accustomed to kind of gassing out in the later rounds. Can you imagine him gassing out against a David Benavidez?
And what I liked most about his performance is they gave him the mic and he called some people out. And yeah, he called some of the hardest fights at 140 for him. The one caveat that I'll give to that is he didn't mention the most dangerous man at 140.
I think we're on the same page on that.
Yeah, he did not even dare to mention Rolly Romero.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Rolly, and there's a reason for it, man. Without a doubt.
Yes.
Strongest champion in boxing.
Yes.
Any weight class.
Any weight class.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So,
welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Last Round Podcast. You got me, Pablo.
You got me, Rudo.
You got me, Asael.
And let's talk some boxing. So this past weekend, we had another great set of fights. And we had the last Showtime pay-per-view card ever. And to headline this event, we had David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade, stacked with a great undercard, and we're here to talk about it. So first, let's go on and talk about the main event. Let's get the main course out of the way. David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade was a fight that lived up to expectations, in my opinion. You know, a great fight between two undefeated fighters, and one result that a lot of people were predicting, but nonetheless a great fight. Now, for you guys, what do you guys think about this fight that just happened this past weekend?
Yeah, I was thoroughly entertained. You know, I think the main event delivered, like you said. It was a great card. Personally, it was very satisfactory for me. And as well as the undercard. The undercard was stacked with some great fights, some great fighters, some maybe closer fights than we thought. Maybe some other ones that we didn't think were going to be more entertaining, and they weren't. But all in all, I was very happy with the fight.
Yeah, for me, it just basically secured what I've been always thinking about Benavidez. Mike Tyson calls him the Mexican monster. He proved yet again why they call him that this past weekend. Yeah, it was super destructive. The typical Benavidez that we're accustomed to seeing. Again, another big show, another pay-per-view card, and stuff like that. And he didn't fold. He performed the way he needed to perform, and now he is on the road to potentially fighting the biggest, or if not the face of boxing, Canelo Alvarez next year. So, yeah, all in all, he looked tremendous. Very one-sided fight. I would say maybe the first 2 rounds and stuff, he had to take a few rounds to kind of adjust. Demetrius Andrade was doing a pretty good job of punching in between, showing him different angles, stooping very low. Actually, even below the waistline, which David was having a little bit of trouble adjusting to that. But once he got the engine started, it was easy peasy.
Yeah, it was just like a typical David Benavidez fight. It takes him 2-3 rounds to kind of get his engine started and kind of settle into the fight. And that's exactly what he did. The first 2 rounds, yeah. Even the commentators, which were a bit, I'll say this right now, the commentators were not that great. Usually they're all right. Abner Mares, David, that old guy that's been there for years.
Al Bernstein.
Bernstein, that's they've all been there, and I don't know. I thought they didn't do that good of a job. They were super on Demetrius Andrade.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a typical David Benavidez fight, man. This is a second round. We can't call it yet. I think once we got the fight settled in, and once David started getting settled into the fight, it was a completely different fight. It was really no wasn't close at all.
No, he made it competitive just those first few rounds because he takes those first few rounds to kind of see what an opponent has and sort of it takes him a while to kind of get the engines running. But not only that, going back off of that, the commentators were not on point this past weekend. Is that I think they're not gonna be on point for the rest of the year. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna get laid off at the end of this year, so they're definitely not. I think they're not really so much into it no more. You know what I'm saying? Now they're looking at the end.
Yeah,
Showtime.
R.I.P. Showtime, man.
R.I.P. Showtime. 37, 38 years
Yeah.
of boxing.
All access. That's the thing I'm gonna miss the most about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they definitely delivered in their last pay-per-view. I think my favorite thing about the main event was we finally got to see the fraud of Demetrius Andrade finally get his mouth shut, man. I mean, we've had to listen to him spew nonsense for so many years. You know, he tried to spin it in a way where people were afraid to fight him because his skills were so great and so vastly. And this weekend, I mean, we got to see that wasn't the case. It's not that his skills were good. It's just how Canelo said. He has fought nobody. He was not a good fighter. I mean, yes, you made it competitive in the first 2 rounds. Congratulations. Anybody can make it competitive in the first 2 rounds with David Benavidez once he's barely getting settled into the fight. But once he got settled in, he had no answer for David. He had nothing for all the years that he hyped about his skills. They were not on display that night. And he took a whooping for 6 rounds. 6 rounds or 7?
6 rounds.
6 rounds.
Yeah.
And then he finally decided to quit on his stool. I mean, we finally got rid of the fake fraud fighter of Demetrius Bobo.
This is definitely the last time we'll ever see Bobo. You know, Bobo, I think, was with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and then he got dropped by them because it goes back to the thing. No one wants to fight him, and it's because he fights so boring. No one wants to go see him fight. And now that he was able to be on one of the biggest stages of his career, or if not the biggest stages of his career, the biggest lights he's ever fought underneath. He folded. He quit. We're never gonna see him again.
Yeah, let's keep a stack. I mean, he quit. Like, he was talking all this during the build-up, 15 years. It took me to get to the stage. Finally, I have it in the grasp of my hand. All this type of stuff. Man, you quit. Like, where was all this heart? Where was all this grit? Like, you started taking a beating and you started getting hurt. Okay, that's cool. I understand. Yeah, David Benavidez is a monster. But don't let that cloud your judgment. This man quit on the stool. So.
Hey, but how good is Caleb Plant then? Because Caleb Plant, he got his ass beat in the second half of the fight against Benavidez, and he took it. He never got dropped. He kept coming back. He made it a fight. I think this fight, this shows how good Caleb Plant is overall, because that man, not only is he a great boxer, but he's one tough dude.
I've been saying that for a while. I've been a very big supporter of Plant. I think he's a really good fighter. He has 2 losses on his record, but don't let that fool you, man. Like, his first loss was against the face of boxing, arguably number 1 pound for pound, Canelo Alvarez. Then he goes on to lose against David Benavidez, another very tough competitor that is now on road to challenge Canelo in the next year or so. So, yes, David, or Caleb Plant might have 2 losses, but, he's a tough guy. And I always thought that the Plant fight for Benavidez was a harder fight than Bobo.
Oh, 100%.
Imagine coming from a fight like Plant and then going to Bobo. It's a easier fight for him. So
it's a level down, a step down.
Exactly.
Regardless, Benavidez showed so much of his arsenal. He showed, or not so much of it, he showed what he's always shown. The constant pressure, the combinations, and last but not least, the power. The power that he displayed on Saturday night was as a typical David Benavidez fight as it is. He showed that he is heavy-handed, and anyone who is willing to try to trade with him will pay the price for that. Because Andrade, at moments, instead of sticking and moving around, he tried to exchange with David Benavidez. And when you try to exchange with a powerful, big power puncher like him, it's not going to end up well for you, And sadly, Demetrius Andrade realized that firsthand. And Honestly, David Benavidez, he's done nothing but build himself up, fight the opponent, and I believe he deserves a shot at Canelo Alvarez now.
I think so too. I think it's time. Canelo, whenever he was asked earlier if he would have fight David, he'd be like, I mean, he's young, man. He hasn't really done much. Yeah, he's a world champ, or he's not even a world champion, is he? At 168?
He's interim.
He's interim. Yeah, he's interim. So,
but he was.
He was, yeah, and then he got, and then he lost it because of the weight. But
in the other one.
Yeah, and the other one, for some positive drug testing.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, that's something hopefully that's in David's past. But whenever Canelo was asked if he would fight him, he'd always say, he's too young, he's not ready, he hasn't fought anybody, and that was true. I would agree with him. I would agree with that report. But now that David Benavidez has stepped up, he's fought Plant, which is an ex-opponent of Canelo. He did very, very well. He hurt Plant a lot. And now he fought Demetrius Andrade, which is a level down, but it goes to show that David is now performing at a level that is much higher than a typical world champion. I think David Benavidez, 27 years old. 26 years old. He's going to get into the prime of his career next year. Those golden age of fighters. I think he is ready for a challenge against Canelo Alvarez. And I would love to see that fight being made.
Yeah, hopefully that fight gets made, but I'm not even sure if Canelo really wants it. Like, he saw, if he didn't see, he's definitely hearing about it now. Just sort of the performance that David put on again against a guy who weighed in 22 pounds. The way he rehydrated 22 pounds the day after the weigh-ins, you know what I'm saying? He destroyed a big dude, you know what I'm saying? Big dude. So, I'm not even sure if Canelo really wants it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're looking up to set up Canelo versus Munguia in May. So, it looks like Benavidez versus Canelo in May. Cinco de Mayo weekend is off the books. Hopefully, we can get something in September, but I'm not sure if Canelo really wants it. Canelo's at the definitely on the decline of his prime years, and David is definitely just entering his prime years. I'm not even sure if I think Canelo might be concerned, or he might not. He may prolong that fight with Benavidez.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think Canelo is scared of anybody. I think that Canelo is. He's been at the top level for so many years, and he's had so much hate and so much criticism, especially like not fighting guys, during the prime. A very easy example is, of course, Triple G. As we all know, Canelo did his best to avoid him during his time at 160 and 154. But I think I don't think Canelo is scared of anybody at this time. I mean, he's just been at the level for too long, has so much experience, and it is true. He is, he's 33, I believe. He is coming into like his final glory days. I think we'll probably see the best Canelo Alvarez. 2 more fights, and then he's definitely going to. It's a clear decrease is going to be shown in his performances, but I don't believe he's scared of David Benavidez. I'm sure he.
Well, maybe not scared, but definitely concerned. I mean, David has qualities that Canelo doesn't like in an opponent. You know what I'm saying? A guy who not only doesn't stop coming forward, but also punches hard. But most importantly, it's the level of punch output that I think is definitely a concern for Canelo. Canelo, who is accustomed to kind of gassing out in the later rounds. Can you imagine him gassing out against a David Benavidez? David Benavidez is a guy who does not stop. He's relentless in his punches, even up until the 12th round. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely a concern for Canelo, since Canelo still hasn't seemed to been able to kind of correct that. I would say so. Even when he fought Triple G in his last fight, he showed signs of fatigue in those championship rounds. So, against a guy who's a lot more younger, taller, bigger. I don't know. I definitely see David giving him, quite a bit of a difficult fight.
Well, I think Canelo answered some criticism about his gas tank in his last fight against Charlo. But, let's not beat around the bush here. Let's call it for what it is. Do you guys think that David Benavidez would beat Canelo Alvarez?
I don't believe so. Not yet. It'll be a very tough fight for Canelo. Regardless, like you said, Benavidez is entering the prime ages of his career. Well, he's only 26 years old. You know, a lot of these fighters hit their physical prime at that age, 26, 27, 20, 29. You know, he's still early. You know, he's still very young. But Canelo, he just has that level. You know, he's fought so many top elite fighters, you know, high caliber fighters in his career, throughout his career. And I believe he has the adequate tools to pull off the victory. You know, it won't be easy, of course, because like you mentioned, Benavidez has a lot of skills, a lot of things that he does, his style, that will trouble Canelo throughout the fight. But then again, Benavidez has not fought an opponent like Canelo. You know, the level that Canelo brings, you know, because when Canelo steps inside that ring, he demands respect, you know. You face off against a man like him, you're like, damn, I feel like he doesn't even have to say anything. Just hit the way of just him being a fighter is enough aura to pressure you, you know, to break you mentally, because he is that big of he's an all-time great. And not only that, but he has incredible defense, incredible head movement, and you can't deny his punching power is above any fighter, I believe, that Benavidez has ever fought. So it will be a tough fight. And I believe Benavidez will have success if they were to fight, but I just don't think that he will beat Canelo. It will be a Canelo close decision for me.
I guess if we're definitely putting money, you know, I mean, you definitely got to put with Canelo. Yeah, but I mean, you can't deny like the ferocity of David. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't care who you are when he's gonna look you right in the face and go, okay, let's go for it. You know what I'm saying? And you know, at 16, he turned pro when he was 17. By the age of 15, 16, he was already fighting or sparring pros, you know, and stuff like that. So maybe he may not have the championship experience as, you know, Canelo has, but he definitely has been in there with guys who were ex-world champions even before he even turned a professional, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think. Listen, yeah, I mean, Benavidez' style, especially his gas tank, the aspect of his gas tank, and him getting stronger and stronger as the fight progresses. I think that would be the most difficult part for Canelo to decipher, and for him to, you know, whenever they're fighting, if they were to fight, for him to neutralize. I think Benavidez, his style definitely is a bit harder, especially for Canelo at this age. But I mean, Canelo Alvarez, I still believe, the face of boxing, I still believe he has a couple more fights left in him where he can show how great he really is. And I think I mean, just like you said, he has been in the top level of boxing for so many years. I mean, Canelo is a veteran now. He fought Mayweather at 23 years old. Like, for a decade since he's fought Mayweather, he has heard it all. You know, he's heard, oh my, Golovkin is the most ferocious puncher in the whole history of the 160. You know, oh my, everyone, if he touches you, you're dead. Oh my, all this stuff. He's got in the ring with these guys, and he's proved that he has the skills to beat anybody. So, David Benavidez, yes, there are a lot of points that you could mention that might give Canelo difficulty. But I believe that Canelo Alvarez has enough experience to neutralize anybody in the world. And on top of that, he has that aura of a champion to where, you know, he's not going to back down from nobody. And David Benavidez surely has never fought anybody like Canelo Alvarez.
Well, you know, I'm gonna go back. I think maybe David may have a chance of beating him. You know, he got co-signed by Mike Tyson and stuff like that. Gave him the nickname. You know, I think there's something there.
Man, he ain't even Mexican. He's Ecuadorian.
Half Ecuadorian, half Mexican. Yeah. But I mean, when Tyson co-signed another fighter, which was Francis Ngannou, and he gave us the surprise as well. So, I mean, you never know. You know what I'm saying? Mike Tyson, Mount Rushmore of heavyweights. You know, there might be something there.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think David, to say he has no chance is definitely incorrect. But if I were a betting man, I would be a foolish betting man if I were to bet against Canelo Alvarez at 33. I think he still has what it takes to defeat any opponent.
Yeah, so this fight, Benavidez and the boxing fans seem to have cornered Canelo into, taking this fight. Hopefully it happens sometime next year. If it doesn't happen in May, I'm praying it happens in September, because this is a fight that it probably is right now the biggest fight in boxing. I think it's bigger than Usyk and Tyson Fury. It's bigger than any other fight that's currently, Better Beef and Bivol, what Tank against, Devin Haney against Tank. I think it's bigger than any of those because we have essentially two Mexican fighters throwing it down in Vegas. When two Mexican fighters who are big elite stars come together to fight in one of the biggest arenas in the world for boxing, it's always a spectacle, and it always gets the buzz. And this fight would surely do that, and I'm hoping it happens sometime next year. If it doesn't, then Canelo is ducking. Benavidez number 1 pound for pound. Anything else about that fight that you guys have in mind?
I mean, I just want to say, I'm just so happy we got rid of Bobo, man. I'm just so happy. I'm sorry. I had to mention it again, man, because, man, the thing, I forgot to mention one thing. The thing that pissed me off about Bobo is that he started making excuses after the fight. Like, okay, you took a whooping for 6 rounds. You quit on your stool. I'm already going to talk shit about you. But then he gets on the mic and he has the audacity to say, David Benavidez doesn't have more skills than me. David Benavidez is not more skilled than me. It's just his size and his weight is what gave him the advantage today. You're just coming up with blatant excuses, coming in at 190. Buddy, this guy is not bigger than you, okay? You might be coming up from a weight class, but let me tell you, you probably weigh as much as him on the off season.
Someone on I think if it was Michael Benson, he put out that Andrade was 190, and then someone in the comments was like asking how much did David weigh, and someone replied 315.
Yeah, I think that's what Bobo in his mind. That's what he thought. Because I don't know, he was saying just blatant excuses. Can't even take the loss like a man. Talking all this payday. Man, we finally got rid of that fraud in boxing, and I, for one, am ecstatic.
Yeah. So regardless, even it didn't matter what excuse Andrade would have came up with after the fight. Twitter or X was having a field day with him. They were having a field day, and rightfully so. The man has been calling out everyone, saying he's been the most avoided fighter in boxing, and some people believed him. A lot of people believed him. A lot of people believed him. And when it came to show his quote unquote skills, he didn't deliver, and many would say he didn't show any heart. So regardless, Bobo down the mud. Benavidez is not gonna get that Canelo payday. All right. Yep. Let's move down the list for this pay-per-view. This incredible pay-per-view, by the way. Also, notice the Christmas hats. It's essentially the holiday season. Yeah, Thanksgiving ended. We ate good. Turkey, ham, pizza. And after Thanksgiving, you got Christmas. So, yeah, we'll be rocking these Christmas hats until the holiday season hits, until Christmas hits. So, get used to it.
Yeah.
Regardless, let's move on down to the co-main event. We had a fight between Jermall Charlo versus Jose Benavidez Jr. Now, this was the return of Charlo, after more than 2 years out of the ring, dealing with personal stuff, mental health issues. He was finally able to get back into ring. Not without any controversy, though. This man came in, 3 pounds overweight?
3 pounds.
For the first try, and then came out heavier the second time, how did that make any sense, Regardless, the fight still went on, despite the huge difference in weight and him missing weight. But, yeah, we finally saw the return of Jermall Charlo inside the ring. And what were you guys' thoughts about that fight?
Yeah, I got a decent amount to say about this, man. Jermall, is it Jermall or Maul?
Maul.
It's Maul. Okay.
Yeah.
Jermall Charlo, yes, he got the win, which at the end of the day, is really what matters most in boxing, you know. So he got the win. I'll give him credit for that. However, I think this fight showed that Jermall Charlo is never going to be back as strong as he ever was. Yes, he got the win. Struggled. It was a competitive. I wouldn't say struggled, but it was a competitive fight. You know, Jose Benavidez Jr. definitely didn't come in just to take a whooping. You know, he came in there with the intentions of winning, and Charlo, he came in there with the intentions of winning. We could see that his skills were superior, but man, he won, and he gets on the mic, and you know, he starts crying, and he starts saying all this mental health, all this type of stuff. Listen, this is the fight game. This game is ruthless. You know, if you show weakness, best believe a very smart opponent is gonna come into it and exploit that weakness. I think that Charlo now has a weakness inside of him that will limit his ability and limit his potential to become something greater than what he could have become. You know, I don't think he will live up to his potential anymore. I think just mentality wise, he's defeated, man, and it's sad to see.
I mean, yeah. I mean, to his performance, he did well after being that amount of time out of the ring, 2.5 years. He did decent. You know, he did against. It was a solid performance against a solid opponent. They definitely picked the right opponent. You know, Benavidez. Definitely some type of a one-dimensional type of fighter. Kind of come forward, but even then, he doesn't throw that much. His power isn't really too crazy, anything like that. Plus, he's been moving up in weight. This fight was at the heaviest he's ever fought at. So I mean, with that, yeah, Charlo performed decently. He won. He got the victory. UD, congrats. But yes, in the aspect of his mental health, he's fully not there. You know what I'm saying? He cried. Yes, there's been other boxers who have cried afterwards. You know, after suffering from mental health, but. You know, just some of the things that we have seen by him, you know, this past recent years, going live on Instagram, being blacked out drunk, his family members in the background saying, "Shut it off! Shut it off!" And Caleb Plant smacking him.
And him not doing nothing about it.
Not doing nothing about it.
He just took it.
He just took it. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not even sure if he's with his baby mama no more. If you know, I know there's trouble in paradise, you know, when it comes to that aspect, you know, and stuff like that. And with the sport like this, yeah, man, you kind of have to get that stuff situated. You know, if you don't, it's definitely gonna come and haunt you. I'm not even sure when we'll see him again, but yeah, hopefully we see a better version of him. Because if not, if he's still the exact same version, yeah, I don't see him being staying at the top. You know, especially if he wants to stay at 160, which it may be hard now because he missed weight. Some of these other guys, some of these other champions that I can think of off the top of my head, 160, Johnny Beck, the other champion. Oh yeah, I think Johnny Beck will definitely has his number on him.
Yeah, I mean, in boxing, mentality is everything, you know. And if Charlo has such a weak mentality and such a mentality of anxiety and all these type of stuff, it's going to hinder your performance in the ring. So it's the most ruthless game in the world, you know. There's a beauty in the chaos, but the chaos is you have to be all the way there, or else, you know, you can't play boxing. So yeah, Charlo, he got the win. Congrats. But I do not see him now beating any of like top guys at 168 or at 160. I think his time is ticking, and you know, it's only a matter of time before someone starts beating him up.
Look, I mean, could you also say it was also ring rust? I mean, he was gone for more than 2 years, and a lot of fighters, you know, sometimes with their return fight after such a long period of inactivity, they do tend to not perform at the top level. You know, there's moments where Charlo during the fight could have landed a big shot on Benavidez, but the timing wasn't there. And you could say it was the ring rust. Could you say that also played somewhat of a big factor in his performance?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, yeah, his performance, it wasn't the best. You know, I'll sit here and say, yeah, his performance wasn't the best. But then again, just like you said, I mean, 2 years inactive in the ring, I can understand your performance not being at 100%. But what I can't understand is your mentality being 100%. I'm not even paying attention to his performance anymore. I'm paying attention to how he was after the fight. I'm paying attention to his emotions. I'm paying attention to how he feels about himself, and it doesn't look like he's feeling very confident, man. And that's just going to hinder you.
Yeah, it's definitely about perspective. You know what I'm saying? If he would have said after the fight, saying something along the lines of, I'm back, I'm ready. Whoever you want in front of me, let's get it. Lions only.
You know?
But instead he was like,
he's like, oh my, like,
I won. Y'all can put whoever y'all want. I'm back. Yeah. It's like, bro.
Houston, we got another one.
Houston, we got another one. Dude, as someone who watches boxing and you place money on bets and stuff like that, you might second guess as to, do I really want to put money on this guy who's not even 100% there or not even confident within himself? Why am I going to put money on him?
Yeah, it's a sad reality of boxing. It's the most ruthless sport, so there is no room for these type of self-defeating mentalities. If you have that mentality and getting into the ring, you're not going to perform at your most highest potential. So I don't see Charlo being the Charlo that we knew, a couple years ago.
And this was the right opponent to come back. You know what I'm saying? I think he could have won a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Just because definitely, 100%. Jose doesn't have the best defense, doesn't have the best head movement. He's kind of flat-footed. He's kind of there. And yes, the ring rust. But Charlo, on paper, he is levels above him. He should have at least dropped them, although Jose does have a tremendous chin. Mm-hmm. But, you know what I'm saying? He could have, he had the potential to do a little bit better, put on a better performance. But, it goes back to A, B, and C, and D, ring rust, mental health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it's interesting to see now. I believe, yeah, I mean, I don't see who else Charlo could fight. Now it's the time for him to actually put his money where his mouth is and prove to everyone that he's still the 160 champion. If not, then he goes away.
Yeah, he this was his fight at the heaviest weight he's ever fought at, and he missed weight by 3 pounds. Like that really comes into question your dedication. That comes into question discipline. That comes into question so much other things, coupled with the fact his mentality and all this stuff. I don't see him, sticking around for much longer than a couple years, honestly.
Yeah. Well, regardless, there are some pros in this fight. He was averaging around 60 punches per round, which is significantly high for Charlo, especially since he's not a volume puncher. He's more of a what'd you say, like a counter boxer, But yeah, he displayed his hand speed. He displayed good power. Like you mentioned, Jose Benavidez Jr. is a very tough guy with a granite chin, as you could tell. It takes a lot to even drop him. But in my opinion, Charlo performed the way I kind of was expecting him to perform. I was expecting him to win. Struggle a bit in there, mainly due because of the ring rust. But regardless, I saw some good things. I saw some bad things. But yes, the post-fight interview and his mentality and his just his overall his body language really, kind of made me think like, is he really still capable of competing at the elite level where you have fighters like at 168, for example, like Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, who Charlo called out in the post-fight interview, afterwards, as potential opponents for him. Do I think those fights are likely to happen? No. Are they fights that Charlo could lose? Yes. They're very high-risk fights, especially for a man who's not there mentally. So it'll be interesting to see what he does for next year and what kind of actions they decide to take for his career, which is right now, a little shaky. Regardless, we move on down. We move on down to the Coco fight of the evening, which was a fight between what was the dude's name?
Ergashev. I remember his last name was Ergashev.
Ergashev. There you go. Uzbekistan. Yes, Ergashev, who was 23-0 with 20 knockouts, going up against the 140 IBF champion Subriel Matias, 19-1 with 19 knockouts. Now listen, my first fight I remember watching Matias live was when he fought Ponce back in February, I believe, this year. And what I saw from that man, it got me thinking. I was like, hey, this man, he's the best fighter at 140. No one beats him. And I had that same belief all these months coming up into this fight. And he once again reassured me that he is the best 140-pounder in the world. Matias is a monster. He is a very bad man. And I do not see anyone beating him at 140. What about you guys?
Yeah, listen, I like Matias. I think he is a very strong, you know, I was about to say challenger, but he is a champion. Very strong champion at 140. You know, I'm a big fan of him as well. I don't give him as much credit as you do. You know, we'll get into this when he calls out the top dogs at 140. You know, I think he struggles a little bit, and I think he takes some else. But you know, we could discuss that later. But all in all, solid performance. He got the Ergashev out. What, 5 rounds?
After the 5th round, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
So, yeah, 4 rounds. At 5. Yeah, 5, 6. Yeah. He got him out quickly. He made him quit on his stool.
Made him quit, yeah.
Made him quit. Another quitter.
Yeah.
2 quitters on the card. Let's just call it how it is, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't make the rules. I just report them. Made the guy quit on his stool. He showed, you know, what he had to show. He's one of those fighters, just like David Benavidez. You know, he can take 2 rounds off. It's fine. He doesn't. What you have to understand about these type of fighters is that they might lose some early rounds, but that shouldn't make you think that he might struggle against somebody else or like another boxer. It's like, yes, he was struggling, but that's just him getting into the flow of the fight, him getting accustomed, settling down into the fight. It takes him a while. Same thing happened with Mayweather. Same thing happened with all these other guys.
And Deontay Wilder,
you know, Deontay Wilder.
I mean, yeah, he would lose a couple rounds, but then he would end it with the right hand, type stuff.
So I mean, this isn't something new. Yeah, Matias takes a bit, 2 rounds. You know, it's nothing crazy to settle into the fight. And once he gets settled in, he marches his ass forward, starts throwing some hard punches that people do not want to take. You know, and once he starts landing those punches, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, dude, tremendous performance. I remember, I can't remember what was the first fight that I saw of him, but I mean, just sort of after I watched one, you know, I got on YouTube, looking at some of the highlights and clips of him, and yeah, man, he fights the way he's always been fighting. No one has ever been able to break him or break the rhythm of the way he fights. You know what I'm saying? He's your typical brawler almost. You know what I'm saying? He comes forward, does not stop coming forward, suffocating his opponent, you know, round by round, little by little. Every round taking a little bit from the opponent until eventually he just breaks. And then the tremendous power that he carries in both hands. It doesn't even matter what punch. It can be the jab, and yet that punch is going to be going at 100%. Yeah, great performance against another guy who was expected to give him possibly maybe another hard fight. You know, it was a guy who was undefeated or maybe had 1 loss, but undefeated. And yet almost all his wins have been by KO, and yet he made him quit. Not only that, but he took his hardest punches. You know what I'm saying? He, as the other guy, Uzbekistanian dude, southpaw, he landed at least like 2 right hooks that would have dropped anyone else, any of the other 140-pound champions, and yet Matias took it and did not stop marching forward. So yeah, congrats to him. You know, another successful night. I believe his first title defense, second title defense. You know, congrats to him. He now has the ability to fight another champion for more money. Yeah, and as he should.
Yeah, and what I liked most about his performance is they gave him the mic and he called some people out by name. That's what I like to see, man. I like to see some conviction. I like to see some. Who did he call out? Lopez.
The first one.
He called out. Oh,
he called him
gosh,
a coward,
dude.
bro.
He said, Teofimo Lopez, you're a coward.
He said, you coward.
Tú eres un cobarde. You know what I'm saying? Like he did not care. So I respect him for that. You know, he called out some very tough challengers. Lopez. He called out Prograis.
Yes.
He called out Haney.
Yes.
And he called out one other guy, I believe. Tank.
Did he call out Tank? No.
I'm not even sure. He called some. I feel like he called out another person. And yeah, he called some of the hardest fights at 140 for him. He goes to show you he's confident in his skills. He wants to push, the division forward. He wants to make good fights happen. And I say give him some good fights, man.
Yes.
I say give him some fights. But the one caveat that I'll give to that is he didn't mention the most dangerous man at 140.
I think we're on the same page on that.
Yeah, he did not even dare to mention Rolly Romero.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Rolly, and there's a reason for it, man. There's a reason for it. Rolly Romero, without a doubt.
Yes.
Strongest champion in boxing.
Yes.
Any weight class.
Any weight class.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I respect Matias for knowing his place.
You know what's funny is that I think a lot of people aren't even mentioning that. You know what I'm saying? He completely looked over Rolly.
Completely looked him over.
Everyone was like, "Oh shit, he just called Lopez a coward," and it's like, yeah, but he didn't call out
But he didn't call Rolly a coward.
He didn't call Rolly a coward, bro.
Yeah,
that goes to show you the level that Rolly has.
It really does, man. Fuck, I love Rolly.
Hopefully, maybe down the line we can see a big unification matchup, but undisputed against them too.
Imagine Matias beats all the other champions, and the last champion in his way is Rolly, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But jokes aside, jokes aside, I think
Joking.
I think Matias, I think not even exactly sure how old he is.
31.
31?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so he's at that age, man. Yeah. Give him, I'd love to see a fight against Lopez. Teofimo, I'd love to see that fight. I think Lopez, he's, I don't know, he's another kind of strange type of fighter that, is always dealing with something. He's always dealing with something. And, but he always, this is the thing, I'll say this right now, I'll give credit. I think Lopez would beat Subriel Matias. I'll say it right now with my chest out. I'll say I think Lopez always shows out in the hardest of the fights. I think he always performs his best when the odds are against him. Coming back from I don't know how long it's been since he's fought Taylor, but it's been some time. He's quote unquote retired, but now he wants to come back. I think, the odds are against him. Matias coming off of a very dominant first title defense, going into a lot of momentum, going into a unification bout against Lopez. I think a lot of people would ride out Lopez, but I think that would be a very big mistake. I'm a very big supporter of Lopez, and I think he'd be able to get it done.
Yeah, Lopez, I love Lopez, he, like you mentioned, he seems to always show out on the big stage, when it came to against Lomachenko, when it came to Josh Taylor, when people doubted him the most, he showed that don't doubt me, and he's proved me wrong twice. He really proved me wrong. Then again, Lopez is a very inconsistent fighter. After his sensational win against Lomachenko, he lost against Kambosos.
Who sucks, by the way.
Who's terrible. He then went on to fight, move up to 140, where he fought Pedro Ocampo. And, he won and everything, yada, yada. But then he fought against Sandor Martin. And he got dropped twice. Once or twice. And he looked very bad. And potentially, he lost that fight. Many people believe he lost that fight. So for me, Lopez is a very inconsistent fighter. And with a lot of it, he has issues outside of the ring. Matias, his stylistically, I think he's a nightmare for Lopez. A fighter who's constantly pressuring you, but it's not even smart pressure. It's just get right in your face pressure. It's there just he wants to break the range right away from the first round. Even if you land, punches on him first round, he's in your face already. And I believe that type of style is very, very hard for Lopez to deal with. If they're not trying to, keep a range, he needs to maintain range on them. He wants to move around, showboat a little bit, show his flair that he has. But I don't believe Matias would show him any respect for that. And I believe Matias would take his punch easily. I believe Lopez is not as heavy-handed as he is back at 135. Matias is too big. He's a big boy. And I believe Matias would not respect his power and would just bulldoze him. I believe Matias would stop him.
Wow, that's big words. I think I would counter. I'd say I think Matias's style isn't a nightmare for Lopez. I think the style that would give Lopez the most difficulty is a style like Sander Martin's. I think that's why that fight was so difficult because he could not like figure him out.
So a boxer.
Yeah, a boxer. I think a slick boxer would give Teofimo Lopez the most trouble out of everybody. I think this is a very bulldoze type of style that Matias brings, and I don't think Lopez has fought exactly like a bulldoze type of style of Matias, but I think it's an easier style than like a Sander Martin where he's just trying to box your head off.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I kind of see that this fight, like if they were ever to fight like a 50-50 fight, you know what I'm saying? They both have their qualities. They both have their thing, they're both world champions and whatnot. They both possess the power. They both possess that grit, you know what I'm saying, to come out on top. So, in my opinion, as a fight fan, I'm 100% like, I can't wait for them to fight. That type of thing. I'm not even gonna take a stand aside or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be a good fight wherever they fight at. It's gonna be a good fight. I really can't even tell you. I can't even fathom who could win. I mean, I could see it going so many different ways. You know what I'm saying? I could see Lopez being a little bit more on the cautious side, maybe more fighting more in the back foot, but yet still landing hard shots, countering Matias, in between. But I can also see Matias just running right through Lopez. You know what I'm saying? As another similar to how he thought Lopez was gonna just run right over Kambosos. I can see him underestimating Matias and Matias doing what he always does.
Yeah. Well, I think we can. I mean, that's only one, path that Matias can go down. There are several paths for him. He called out all the top champions, and I mean, he can honestly even fight against the winner of Haney Prograis.
Yeah.
He can fight against Rolly.
Too dangerous.
Prograis put out on his Twitter. He actually watched the fights, and he said, for him, granted he beats Haney in December, he put Rigas Prograis versus Matias 2024. So it got quite a bit of engagement. So I mean, if he looks successful, and if he is successful against Haney, it's possible that we might see that next year.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too. I mean, and this is one thing we might agree on. I think Matias would beat Haney. Yeah, if Haney were to come out on top, I think Matias would beat the.
Haney would do the most he can to run away.
Run away, yeah, I don't think it'd just be too much running.
Yeah, I think right now Haney is definitely in. If he were to come out victorious against Prograis, he's definitely going to be in a rock and a hard place. If he decides or tries to make the attempt to go back down to 135, you got Tank, you got Shakur.
And you also got killing your body.
Yes. Just, the wear and tear that does to someone, We saw how he looked against Kambosos on both fights. He looked like the Walking Dead, one of those zombies from them. And you got at 140, you got Matias. And then Lopez as well. You know what I'm saying? So, he's definitely in a hard place. I don't really see Haney rising above them. If I'm going to be honest, I think it might take a little longer to see Matias fight against some of these other champions. If I were to give him a nickname, I'd give him the nickname of, like an Arthur Benavidez, but at 140.
Could be. Well, there's a lot of future at the 140 now. It's really starting to spice up, especially with this unification between Devin Haney and Prograis to a potential, more unification with the winner fighting Matias, and then ultimately fighting Rolly at the end. The champ of champs, the man,
the ultimate opponent. Yeah.
The top of the totem pole, Rolly Romero. But yeah, so we have a lot of things to talk about at 140. Hopefully something happens in 2024, especially at this next fight between Prograis and Haney. But let's move on down to the final fight of the card, or in this case, the first fight of the card between Hector Luis Garcia versus Lamont Roach. Now, this was a super featherweight showdown. Hector Garcia was looking to defend his championship, And El Androide, or the android, was saying that leading up to the fight, in interviews, he was saying how the fight against Tank Davis was a fluke, and he was gonna showcase on Saturday that it was, that he didn't fight the way he wanted to fight. He didn't feel, the best, whatever, yada yada. He said everything that happened against Tank was going to be proven wrong, and he did not do that. He got, in my opinion, upset, a big upset in the card. First of all, a very boring fight. In my opinion, the worst fight of the entire card. Very boring. It wasn't action packed until the final 2 rounds of the fight.
Yeah.
of a 12 rounder. So there wasn't really much to talk about. But Hector Garcia showed that he is still shaking off the cobwebs of that Tank Davis defeat, and it showed with now a new champion at 130, with it being Lamont Roach. Now, what are your guys' thoughts about this fight?
Yeah, I don't really have that many crazy thoughts, man. Just like you said, very boring fight. It under-delivered. I thought this fight was going to be good. I was looking forward to Hector Luis Garcia coming back. I think he's a solid fighter. But he just showed me kind of nothing. He fought, on the back foot the majority of the time, trying to counter, but, it never really...
Be successful with it.
Yeah, it wasn't really successful. It wasn't really executed properly. And Lamont Roach marched forward, threw more punches, missed a lot, but his forward pressure, I think, is what won him the fight. A very close split decision. And he is now a new champion. I'm not mad about the decision. Boring fight. But we got a new champion now.
Yeah, I'm not mad about the decision either. I saw him come out victorious. Yeah, I was kind of expecting, a little bit of upset. I was expecting Garcia to come back. Not only come back, but also look like the typical Garcia that we're accustomed to seeing, the androide that we're accustomed to seeing. And no, it looks like some of the hard punches that Roach was landing on Garcia, the left hook, it looked like Garcia was getting flashbacks from the Tank fight, thinking that he couldn't see or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, that kind of seemed like to calm him down. He didn't really risk at all anything. He almost never once started coming forward at Lamont. He was kind of trying to box him, which was the worst game plan, against a guy who's definitely a lot more quicker than you. I don't see why he was trying to do that. And yet, so, yeah, I mean, it proved to me, he's still not come back. He's still not 100%, and, it showed this past weekend. So now I'm not sure what direction he's going to take with his career, but moving forward with Lamont Roach, how does he stack up against some of the other 3 champions?
Well, he called them all out by name, so respect there.
Okay.
I like that. Maybe he's more inclined to, unify. Maybe he's more inclined to actually, get these fights happening and get these fights made. But I'll say this right now, I don't think he beats any of the champions at 130.
Yeah, he's by far the weakest.
I think he is the weakest. I think Cordina beats him. I think Foster beats him. And I especially think Navarrete beats him. So,
yeah. I mean, respect. He's the world champion now,
Respect, man.
That's something a lot of fighters can't say,
I'll give credit.
I became world champion, but yes, he's definitely at the a very, very tall, not even hill, a tall mountain to climb if he wants to unify or beat some of these other champions, because these other champions have shown that they are made of granite. They are, champions. They fight. They bring something to the table that makes them hard to beat, which is why they rightfully claim the belts. And for Lamont Roach, he had a shot. He did his second shot at a world championship. His first shot was against Jermall Charlo back in 2019. He fell short, unanimous decision against him, and hadn't been back at that level until this past weekend. So, I believe he has a lot of self-belief in himself now. There's obviously, when they look back at the tape, they're going to notice that, maybe I shouldn't have done this and that. There's a lot of hesitance between both fighters throughout the fight. A lack of, wanting to engage and stuff like that. Which, if he's able to change it and, maybe he'll have some success against some of these other champions. But, like he said, I don't see him making that big of an impact on the division. And whichever other champion gets them, bless you, whichever other champion gets them, I believe they'll take his belt.
Yeah, I mean, the weakest link of all. Nothing really impressive about his style. Nothing really that kind of popped out to me that like showed something unique about him or something dangerous. I think that it's gonna be difficult for him, man. You know, hopefully he has the mentality of like a winner and like wants to get
Not a quitter.
Yeah, exactly. Not a quitter like Bobo Andre. Maybe, you know, he wants to make these fights happen and respect to him. But if I don't give him high chances to make a very big impact.
Yeah, for me, he's still, within the champions, he's a new WBA. He's still bottom, 3 or 4. You know what I'm saying? It's up between him and Cordina. But for sure, the top kings of that weight is Navarrete and Foster. And I still have Navarrete as the king on top of everyone. So, that doesn't change for me. Roach, I don't even know how old he is. You guys know how old he is?
I think he's over 30.
30? Yeah, he's another guy, congrats to him. He got a world title. But, yeah, I don't see him posing any threat to some of these other guys. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but this is a little bone to pick with Garcia. Before the Showtime pay-per-view event started, I was on DraftKings. I was very, very, confident with my picks, But thanks a lot to Hector Garcia. I only got 4 out of my 5 bets, winning, So Hector Garcia, I really despise you right now for making me lose that, man. Making me lose that. Regardless, I had a good night on DraftKings. I had a good night on DraftKings.
I really thought he was gonna win.
Yeah,
I really did.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely. I'm surprised he was talking all that stuff about how he didn't fight that well against Tank in the lead up to this fight, because I thought he fought a pretty good fight against Tank, and I personally believe his performance against Tank was much more impressive than his performance against Lamont Roach. I definitely think maybe he's still struggling to see out of his eyes.
Yeah, he's still blind.
Yeah, I think he might be.
Yeah, regardless, that was the entire Showtime pay-per-view, the final one. You guys have anything else to say about this pay-per-view, the final one?
Went out with the bang, man. Thanks to Showtime pay-per-view for giving us all access, for giving us good fights, for being a cornerstone of boxing with Jimmy Lennon Jr. And all of these guys, man. I think it's sad. It's sad, it's sad to see Showtime dying. I think is the appropriate word. But, in every ending, there's a new beginning. So, hopefully, this isn't the end of PBC. Hopefully, they find another streaming platform that they can build up that can get even more eyes. So, but regardless, rest in peace, Showtime. You will be missed.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the last card of the year. They still have the next one, December 16th, but this is the final pay-per-view fight from Showtime. So many great fights. Top of my head that I can think of, I remember one of the bigger ones was Canelo versus Mayweather. I remember on the undercard, they had a co-main event, Lucas Matias against Danny Garcia. Man, I remember that night pretty well. It was a September night, summer night, really nice. I'm thinking of a whole bunch of other ones. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying that boxing is done. Boxing's dead now, with Showtime leaving. But I still think, still here to stay. There's still a couple of things that they can do to get some of those eyes that boxing is accustomed to. For a lot of people to still continue to see boxing fights and stuff like that. It might be possible that we might see PBC fighters now on Amazon, stuff like that. Still yet to know how that goes, but thanks to Showtime for all these memories and fights and stuff like that. Definitely gonna be one to remember.
Yeah, like Showtime had, they had those satisfying moments like Marcos Maidana versus Adrian Broner, fight of the century between Manny Pacquiao, Floyd, to the coronation of the first undisputed fighter at 168 for Canelo versus Caleb Plant. A lot of history, even before that, they've been in the business for years. They were one of the, if not one of the two biggest ones along HBO, who would showcase boxing. So it's a bit sad, but the show's got to keep moving, So, PBC, they're not going to die. They're going to find another streaming platform, and I can't wait to see what happens next. But RIP Showtime, you will be missed. Mm-hmm. Now, that everything we wanted to talk about tonight? All right. So, yes, don't forget to subscribe. Okay, do that. And also, follow us on our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, TikTok, on X. So comment down below who you think would win between David Benavidez versus Canelo. Is Charlo back, or is he over with, no longer at the top level? Is Matias the best 140 pounder, or are there any other 140 pound champions that would beat Matias? And mention it down below. Follow us on Discord. We got the link down in the description as well. And this was Pablo.
Ruda.
Asao.
And this was the Last Round podcast. Thank you.